in the studio now, I'm very delighted to welcome Lou Kitchener, who's come along from the Orange Grove Clinic, a lovely new space in the middle of Norwich, the heart of Norwich, and you're going to tell us how to relax, aren't you?
Yeah, hopefully.
Now, I've been asking people this morning, what do they do to relax? We had Ross said that he liked to drink wine and then have intimate relations with his wife.
Do you know what? I don't actually mind Ross's suggestion.
Don't you?
I mean, the glass of wine, it's kind of a temporary
Much
relaxant.
less poetically.
Yeah, I believe you on that. But, I mean, we all need physical contact, and actually it's pretty good release. I'm guessing what Ross might have been suggesting with his tweet.
Ross, I hope you're listening.
It's not the worst idea, you know?
Whereas Alice was saying she surfs the internet.
Yeah, you see, that doesn't work for me. That just wouldn't work for me. That makes me quite uptight, and like you said earlier, you kind of then want to check your emails, and it takes you out of yourself and into something else. It's this like stimulation, and that makes me feel a bit.
Is it mindfulness? When you're not actually, is it not?
No, well, it's not really. Most of the time today, when we look to relax, we actually look at things outside of ourselves. So people will watch telly, people will watch films, or kind of play computer games, and all of those things.
I like a good film.
Well, yeah, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it does sometimes change, the brain waves in your head, if it's the right kind of film or the right kind of book. Exactly. You can feel a little bit calmer. But all of these things take us out of ourselves and into something else. So the idea with Headspace and focusing is that rather than going, watch that film or play that computer game or surf the net, you're actually going into yourself, which sounds a little bit scary.
Yeah, because some people might think, well, if I go into myself, I don't want to go there. That's why I want to go out of myself.
But that's the whole point. It's escapism, isn't it? So as long as we keep going out and looking for kind of that external stimulus, you're never really going, okay, what's going on inside me? And if you never kind of go inside, if you like, although it seems a bit scary to begin with, you never really, really work out what's going on. And if you don't know what's going on, all kinds of stuff can build up and then it can suddenly come out.
So when you talk about going inside...
inside.
What do you mean?
Well, one of the first things we do in sessions, because I know earlier you said the idea of stilling your mind is really difficult. Stilling your mind is virtually impossible. I mean, that might be an end result for some people who've done meditation for years and years and years.
It's so hard.
It is really, really hard. But one of the first things you can do is to actually try and work out what is going on in my head. And rather than all of the then emotional kind of attachments we have to that, for example, this evening I have got to make dinner and then I've got to do that, and then the emotional response is, when am I going to have time to do that? I've got to da-da-da-da-da-da. And we've already had a physiological reaction to, how am I going to do that?
So your thought has set off a chain of events in your body.
Yeah, and there's often an emotional response to that. So very rarely do we have this kind of script-like thought process that is very kind of organised and that's what I'm doing. There's nearly always an emotional response to each of those little thought processes. But if we're not even recognising that, things can be kind of getting really out of sync, if you like. They can be flying off in all kinds of directions and we don't even really know what they are. And then we just know that we feel stressed, or we know we've got a lot on our mind, but we might not even know what that is.
This sounds similar to something that I did when I was getting over a long-term health problem. I had ME and I was quite poorly for a long time, and I got to a point that whenever, say, my trigger for worry was if my gland in my neck started to ache, it would then set off probably I didn't think it was sheer panic. It became the norm. My thought processes would be something along the lines of, I've got an aching gland. Oh dear, that means 3 months off work. Oh my God, I'm going to be poor, I'm going to be kicked out. What's going to happen? I'm never going to be better again. And of course, by the end of that thought process, I was completely stressed.
Yeah.
So stress became my sort of homeostasis, or whatever you call it. But so you're saying with going inside, it's about recognising, to sort of stop yourself. I mean, I learnt to sort of stop that association between aching neck and those thoughts, which then stopped me worrying.
Yeah, well,
I think something similar? Or?
Yeah, well, it is something similar. It's recognising what we think. I mean, there are quite a few different things in there we could pick up on. But, one of the main things is, from recognising what's going on, you realise that you can begin to control it. So with your jaw thing, it felt maybe like a slightly out of control reaction, because you do have a physiological response. So what was happening in you was that panic of, oh God, what am I going to do?
And then I know that my body was releasing adrenaline.
Exactly, yeah, you stimulate then your sympathetic nervous system.
So then what I was doing is I was releasing adrenaline, which was attacking my immune system.
Exactly.
And then, of course, it became a self-fulfilling prophecy that I actually wasn't very well for a while.
You release a load of hormones into your system that says, we've got an emergency situation here. Cortisol. So everything, cortisol, adrenaline, gets pumping up. And if those kind of slightly hardcore hormones are pumping round, the other ones, the soothing ones, can't pump round at the same time.
And what are the soothing ones?
So all you're experiencing, well, we're talking kind of serotonins,
endorphins,
yeah, that's a slightly different thing, but endorphins are the kind of feel-good factor thing, maybe what Ross was talking about earlier.
But with a glass of red wine probably released a bit of serotonin and endorphin for him.
Maybe. Well, it's a muscle relaxant, isn't it, booze, but it's a very temporary thing as well, isn't it?
So we're for those of you who just joined us, I'm talking to Lou Kitchener. She's from the Orange Grove Clinic, and she's talking about sort of, what do you call it, headspace?
Yeah, call it headspace. I mean, we call them relaxation classes, but I think just as valid a word might be focusing classes.
Okay.
But to focus, I think you've got to be in a relaxed state.
So describe a typical class.
Okay. So quite small classes, sit down rather than laying down, because people tend to have a bit of a snooze if they lay down. So you need to be sitting down comfortably. And then we always start with a focus on breathing techniques, because most of us from day-to-day life aren't breathing properly or effectively. So you need to focus. Exactly. You're already sitting up more straight and breathing deeply. If you just take a few deep breaths, suddenly everything feels just a little bit more grounded. And then I talk people through relaxing different parts of their body. So if I say now, relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, you might not have even realised that you were relaxing that you were kind of tensing them up.
Hard on live radio.
Well, you're in a state, aren't you?
You're in a state.
I
am in a real state.
You're in a state, Kate. We're all in a bit of a state, trying to just get through life and do everything, aren't we?
Well, actually, I mean, talking about radio, in the early days when I was absolutely petrified, I used to come out and I was exhausted because I was in a complete state. It feels less like that now, but you're saying in your class it's a way of just learning how to physically relax. A lot of us don't know how to physically relax. I think you're right.
And a lot of the time we get to the end of our day, we physically relax and we fall asleep. And we don't know how to, just during the day, relax without falling asleep. It's
some people
difficult.
find it hard just to fall asleep. I mean, I go to bed with is this bad? I go to bed with headphones on, listening to the radio.
Well, a lot of people find that quite soothing.
Because it's like someone telling me a story, even if it is 5 Live. Or Future Radio, of course. But
well, I guess if it gets you to sleep, it's not a bad thing. But there are kind of ways that you can talk yourself to sleep as well, in a similar way to what we use in the Headspace classes. And a lot of people from the yoga classes have said that they talk themselves through what I do with them at the relaxation at the end of yoga.
Yes, you're joining us on Community Chess this morning. My name is Kate Romer. This is Future Radio 107.8. And I've been joined by Orange Grove Clinic practitioner Lou Kitchener, who's going to now just tell us how to relax, basically. Running Headspace classes at the Orange Grove. When do they run?
They're on Tuesday lunchtimes, and we've tried to make them work so that people who are working in the city centre could squeeze it into a lunch break. So we're doing 40-minute sessions, and people found this week that they could manage to get time off work and they could still get a sandwich before or afterwards, have the 40-minute session, go back to work.
Sounds nice, actually.
One of the girls on Tuesday said that she had the most productive afternoon at work that she'd had in a long, long time.
One, probably because she took a lunch break. Lots of us don't. Lots of us just go and grab a sandwich and then just stare at our screens, thinking that's lunch. And, no, this sounds great.
She just said she was really, really focused, and for once she actually felt that she could focus on one thing at a time rather than this whole splurge of and trying to do everything.
As we all do, especially with the world of email, where you've got 3 emails on the go at the same time, and then someone distracts you or someone phones you, and then you come back and then you realise you haven't sent something. We're living in a difficult age.
We are, and brains are very clever, and we're getting very good at multitasking, so we're getting really good at doing lots and lots of things, but then we don't know how to stop that. So we're really able to do all of those things, and that's not a terrible thing for our brains to be doing, but we don't know how to do the opposite.